All right, number 8. So for number 8, it says that the expression, the cube root of 64 times the cube root of 64, gives you the area of the base of a cube with the volume of 64 cubic inches. So what is the area of the base in square inches? In square inches. So what they want us to do is to take this cube root of 64, and then once we find that, we're going to square it so that we give the answer in square inches. Now, this expression here, the initial expression, they're telling you how to do it. So they're telling us to take the cube root of 64, which is 4, and multiply it times the cube root of 64, which is 4. And that's how we get the 16. 4 times 4 is 16. It's very important to read how the question is being asked so that, oops, sorry about that, so that we are aware of how you're going to give the answer. Okay. So for number 9, let's move on to number 9. We're being asked to plot those numbers on a number line. So 25 hundredths, we know this is like having 25 cents, right? So it's between 0 and $1, and it's more even between no money or 0 and 50 cents. We should have 25 cents or 25 hundredths. That's why that's there. And then to find the square root of 3, well, we're going to have to estimate the square root of 3, and we know that would be the square between the square root of 1 and the square root of 4. So that means it's going to be between 1 and 2. And 3 is closer to 2, so it would be closer to 2. And then we would want to try 1.5 to see what that would look like. And I'm going to pull up a calculator so we can just try that. So let's clear this. And if we did 1.5 times 1.5, you did the multiplication, it'd give us about 225, which is not quite 3. So we know it'd be a little bit more than 1.5. It'd be somewhere between 1.5 and 2. And so if you look here, between 1.5 and 2 is exactly where they placed it. So you definitely are going to have to estimate. Let's take a look at number 10. For number 10, they're asking what is the solution to the equation. So we have a square root here, and we know that in order to solve this square root, let me zoom in a little bit, we have to take the square root of each side. And so that's going to cancel out and leave x alone, which is why we have x alone on all of the answers. And then the square root of 196 is 14, but we know when we're dealing with square roots, both the positive and the negative. So positive 14 is going to equal 196, but also negative 14 times negative 14 equals 196 positive. So you need to remember when we're talking about a square root, you want to include this symbol that includes the positive and the negative root. For number 11, we're being asked to complete the sentence to approximate the square root of 23. And so the square root of 23, we know that it would be between the two perfect squares of 16 and 25. And those are going to simplify down to 4 and 5. So it's between 4 and 5, and 23 is much closer. It's only 2 units away from 25, so it's going to be closer to 5, which is why they have the answer here, that it is between 4 and 5, but closer to 5. All right, for number 12, we're being asked to solve the equation x cubed equals negative 27. So we know we're going to take the cubed root of each side. And so the cubes are going to cancel, and that leaves us with x is equal to, and the cube root of negative 27, that's going to be a negative 3, because negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 equals negative 27. All right, for number 13. Number 13 is one of those we want to be really careful when we're reading and we're thinking about area or perimeter, depending on what's going on in the problem. So it says here that number 13, Raul is building a fence. That already tells me the perimeter is the fence, right? It's not like the water being filled up in a pool. That's area. It's covering that entire area. A fence only takes the space around the area, not filling it all in. So he's building a fence around his flower garden. The expression 4 times the square root of 121 gives the number of feet of fencing that he needs for a garden with an area of 121 square feet. So I know that this garden is a square and it has the area of 121 square feet. So that means I'm looking for the square root of 121, which is going to equal 11. Okay, so that means, the last question is how many feet of fencing does he need? So in order to make this fence, he only needs the enough fencing for all 4 sides. So for this side, he needs 11, 11 here. He's going to need 11 here. He's going to need 11 here. This is why we're given this expression. 4 times the square root of 121. That's 4 times 11, which equals 44. For number 14, we're just comparing and we're choosing the correct inequality symbol. And so it says to complete the comparison, we know that the square root of 16 is going to equal 4, and the cube root of 27 equals 3. 4 is greater than 3, and so that's why we have that answer choice. And number 15, what are all of the solutions to this equation? And the equation they're asking us is, what is the cubed root of 64? So this is where you have to be careful. If you're given a square root, you should be showing both the positive and the negative of that. If you're given a cubed root, you're only going to have one answer. And be very careful as to whether we're using a cubed root and a square root. The exponent of 3 is a cubed root. So what number multiplied 3 times itself would give us 64? And we know that a positive 64, and that would be a positive 4. 4 times 4 times 4 would give us 64.